We are live on one, and we are still waiting on the other channel. Damn it, Kiyan. Got the settings all wrong. In any case, let me see if I can fix that. In the meantime, welcome, everybody. Welcome to another Churros y Tácticas. Yes, indeed, we are back, and buckle up, because this isn't just your average episode, is it? It's that kind of episode that could potentially define an era. Let's get into it. Yes, indeed. Welcome, all of you loyal followers, loyal watchers of Churros y Tácticas. Welcome back to another episode. I've, in the meantime, Kiyan, managed to fix the settings real quick. So welcome to the viewers of D-Spot. Welcome to the viewers of Kiyan's channel as well. And boy, oh boy, Kiyan, was I looking forward to getting into this one. I don't have any balloons popping off. I don't have any fireworks coming out unless the trusty StreamYard is working its magic. But man, oh man, while some clubs don't want to present themselves when their players win Balón de Oros, or don't win them, I should say, well, the Barca under-19s win the Youth League Championship. And while some clubs say, if we don't rest for 72 hours, other clubs have their women's team qualify for another Champions League final, fifth one in the row. And Kiyan, well, some clubs threaten to make a no-show in the final of the Copa del Rey because of certain referees and throw up an unprecedented stink show. Well, Barca win their 32nd Copa del Rey title and beat Real Madrid for a third time in a row. Yikes! What a season this is turning out to be for culés, the Yang, Madridistas, the Yang. It is a good time. I want to welcome everybody to a show I've been waiting to do. We meant to record this naturally yesterday, but Florentino Perez had other ideas and caused a massive nationwide outage that put the whole country, the whole peninsula on hold. But here we are on Tuesday. It is the 29th of April. And tomorrow we have a Champions League semifinal to look forward to. But first, let's digest that took place over the weekend. Kiyan, welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much. Well, of all things you could have led with, you led with something that wasn't true, which is Real Madrid threatening to not play the Copa del Rey final, which was not true. And also 72 hours, which Flick also complained about in the last month or so. So congratulations, deserved victory. And that's, I'm sure this podcast, there's a lot to explore. There's a lot of aftermath that comes out of this. There's, two teams, where these guys are headed, the future. This season, the title race, all the shenanigans that took place in the last 72 hours. And obviously, I'm not talking about the unfortunate power outage, but everything else that was surrounding, the team off the field as well. So there's a lot to get into. Where do you want to start? I mean, you're the winner, so you get to dictate it.
Well, I thought, first of all, it was a final for the ages, quite truly. I hugely, obviously, enjoyed the final. Would I have enjoyed it as much had we not won it? I think it was still thrilling, and one at least where I was happy to see that, look, with all of the doom and gloom in the lead up to this final, and I think there is a lot to be said about the shenanigans that took place on part of the club as well, which now at least the whole world got an idea of what happened and had their say, and I think rightfully so, shaming Real Madrid for what they did in lead up and build up to this Champions League or the Copa del Rey final, which was again unprecedented. I was happy to see that it was a game. I was happy to see that it was a game that didn't carry with it as much controversy as I thought in the lead up to it that it would carry with it, meaning that I quite frankly had envisioned a cup final that was with the aim where basically football would be second to the spectacle. I thought it was going to be a final where aggression was the order of the day. I thought it was going to be reminiscent to kind of a type of final that we saw back in was it 2011, where basically a Real Madrid that already goes into this final seeing itself as inferior, seeing itself as kind of looking for excuses elsewhere to deviate the attention away from the pitch.
Wait, what happened in 20? I think it was 2011 or 12.
I don't know.
The
It was
Ronaldo
around.
header.
Yes.
What did Real Madrid do that season to deviate attention? Refresh
Well,
my memory.
it was a nasty final that was basically headlined with the aggressive attitude with which Real Madrid came out with.
No, let's not rewrite that one. That first of all, that Real Madrid team would wipe the floor with this one and this Barca team. And that Real Madrid was basically facing one of the greatest Barca sides ever, having to defend for their lives against a bunch of crybabies who were rolling on the floor for 90 minutes.
No. Crybabies are Real Madrid. Crybabies are Real Madrid currently.
Oh, sure, for sure. But but we're referring to 2011 right now, just to be clear.
No, I said that. I thought it was going to be reminiscent of the 2011 Cup final that I remember being overly aggressive. Where again in the lead up to
not
it,
like that this year. They're not like an overly aggressive team. They're just a bad team.
And I was again. My point being is that I was happy to see that there was enough football being played. Also on part of Real Madrid. Like I said, I thought it was not so much a tale of two halves, but certainly a first half where Barca clearly dominated. That goes without saying. It was a first half where Barca should have, quite frankly, been up more than a goal to nil. It wasn't the case. We can get into it as to why it wasn't, what chances were missed. Certainly big chances were missed. Two from Rafinha that are on top of my mind right now. I think some bad referee calls as well that didn't transform. I quickly looked. I wanted to see how you guys at Managing Madrid spoke about the final, and I caught glimpse of the El Día Después, but I wasn't able to watch to get through it even after the first 2 minutes because one of your colleagues mentioned that the officiating was bad, and I was like, if Real Madrid fans are going to take this up with the officiating, then I mean, I'm curious to know more Kiyan's words
You're
directly.
About Leah, probably.
Yes, it was the girl that said that.
I don't think she meant to say that it was bad in favor of Real Madrid. It was just bad. Like Barca should have had 2 penalties in that game.
Okay. Oh well, if that's was her claim, it did it. Okay.
I don't know, but we did have an entire segment where, like, because we spoke like about Rudiger's freakout session and how it was just so unhinged and unnecessary. Because it was in reaction to Mbappe and the whole Eric Garcia thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That foul, and we just called it out. Like, dude, first of all, Rudiger is an entire podcast on its own.
What's going on with this guy?
Because now he's having. I mean, he's gonna miss like months because of the ban. When you factor in like how much of the league is left and what it trickles over to. But obviously, he's using this opportunity to do the injury as well. So he just had operation today. So obviously, he's using this time as you might as well make use of it if you're not going to play anyway to do the surgery because he's playing through pain. But my first thought was, first of all, we have no defenders left. So, I know as bad as Real Madrid are this season, you still have a chance at the league because now you're focusing on this. Barca have those Champions League games, so maybe you can use as to your advantage to make a run here. And if we were going to do that, now you left us in a terrible position because you got yourself banned. And now Tchouaméni probably has to go back to center back. And it's like Asensio and Tchouaméni and like the last legs of Alaba that you put us in this position. You take Tchouaméni out of the DM spot. Camavinga is injured for 3 months, so he can't even fill in for that role. So we're just screwed now either way because of your actions. Turns out he's getting surgery anyway. My second thought was you can't complain because you literally took down, I don't remember, was it Fermin? You should have had you were lucky not to get a penalty against you, so you have nothing to complain about. Obviously like in those situations, he's not thinking logically. It's just pure emotion, and there's no.
But I feel, look, Kiyan, and the reason again I want to draw parallels to the Mourinho era is because also the club is behind this, man. The club has instilled a type of mentality where on a bi-weekly basis, and I know I sound like a broken record, but it has to be said, they create an ridiculous amount of pressure surrounding the officials before and after a game. So much so that clearly to the point where somebody like Rudiger, who is, I want to say, frail, let's say, I don't know, unhinged. This is something mentally isn't exactly right with the guy right now. You look at his attitude on the pitch, off the pitch, and it's like it's reminiscent of it's like Pepe 2.0 at his worst, right? They are creating an atmosphere surrounding each game that clearly is affecting the players in a very bizarre way, man. Because it's not only Rudiger. You saw Bellingham do the same thing. You saw Vázquez do the same thing. Carvajal do the same thing. Vini, of course, do the same thing. All the Madrid players were swarming and attacking the referees like as if some great injustice had just taken place. I think the club, spearheaded, yes, by Florentino Perez, clearly the president that is allowing Real Madrid TV to create this atmosphere and this ambience around every single game, that when shit's not working out, look at how they're reacting, man. It's unprecedented.
These are two separate conversations, Diego. One is, should Real Madrid be doing this or not, which I agree with you, they shouldn't be. It's classless. I also didn't like the fact that they got salty, didn't show up to the Ballon d'Or ceremony. I didn't like the fact that they canceled the press conference the day before the game. That's a separate conversation. What happened when you're talking about how players are reacting to certain situations, Rudiger is Rudiger, whether he is at Real Madrid or Chelsea. The thing is, if he's winning, you get a brighter side of Rudiger, and when things are not going your way, you get more emotional. This is human nature. Arturo Vidal is Arturo Vidal wherever he is, whether he's at Bayern or Barca or Chile. And you can copy and paste that to every player. Rudiger is Rudiger. These players are who they are. Gavi is who he is. Bellingham is who he is. And when we lose and shit doesn't go our way, we get emotional, and logic escapes us. That's how it works. It has nothing to do with. Now, I do agree with you that Real Madrid TV are creating a lot of hysteria. And then there's a whole separate conversation, is like, do we at least agree that the referees do suck? And I think we all agree with that. So we can talk about that, but that's a separate issue too. But like what you're explaining here, Diego, is more emotion of players in a losing moment. And it's very akin to Sergio Ramos when Real Madrid were 5-0 down in the Clasico.
Correct.
He's like, I'm out of here and I'm breaking everybody's legs on my way out. I'm getting a red card. I'm going to let it all out.
Punching Puyol. I'm pushing Xavi.
Yeah. And that's an emotional decision, knowing that he's lost.
But listen, if you listen, and I don't want to get too caught up in this because I think there's a lot about the game that I want to talk to you about as well. But when you hear players from that era talk now, when you hear a Casillas, when you hear a Ramos talk about what the atmosphere was like in the dressing room, the tense, the animosity, the tension that both teams were really living and experiencing that phase, that era, each game, and game in and game out, there was that marathon of Clásicos that nearly broke the Spanish national side apart. They themselves talk about that situation was simply unsustainable. It became a pressure cooker.
Sure, but
in that case, I blame Mourinho for that, and I blame as well what the club, the club's positioning and also public statements that were made then that were, for me, it's very reminiscent of what is taking place today.
Well, first of all, I mean, the biggest difference is that Ancelotti is the polar opposite to Mourinho in terms of mannerisms and how
Hmm.
he deals with the press and the players. So, I mean,
Hmm.
that's the one biggest difference, obviously. But to me, this goes back to I mean, what happened in that era was that there was just so much tension between the two teams, um, that it spilled over. And this is like a natural occurrence, like a byproduct of what was happening in that era. First of all, thank God you and I have been complaining about how boring Clásicos got for like 4 or 5 years there. We were begging for some tension and animosity. And to the point when I see when I see Lamine Yamal wearing two sets of sunglasses and talking his shit, I'm like, I love it. I'm this is great. This is what we need in the rivalry. I have no issue with it. We've been crying out for this. Like too many hugs, like from
Hmm.
2018 to
Hmm.
2023, it was just hugging, and I don't even remember what happened in those Clásicos. But this is now must see TV, and
Yeah,
this not what we've been asking for? Like if
for
football
sure.
peaked in 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Yes.
We're getting back to a stage now where Real Madrid and Barcelona, there's true animosity, which is great. Now, obviously, for Madridistas, they want to turn this part of the story around where it's not so one-sided, but we're back to that level. So, but I look, the whole Real Madrid TV discussion is a loaded one, an entire subject in itself, because what is happening with that is basically they're the club that really go nuts with it, right? We've
Hmm.
seen almost every La Liga team put out a statement unhappy with the referees this season.
Hmm.
But Real Madrid have taken it to another level, and that's really the only difference.
All the while,
And
they have been doing this for years. Just I haven't seen it cranked up to not to this level. Um, they have like upped it up a notch. Kicked it up a gear this
yeah,
season.
I mean, I
Um,
also think there's a narrative, Diego, because Dan Thomas said something that went viral. Dan Thomas of ESPN, that Real Madrid are already
X.
making
Mm.
that Real Madrid are only already making excuses for losing the final ahead of time.
Mm.
And I thought, I don't. These are two completely separate things that he's talking about. Real Madrid would have put this video out even if they were dominating and en route to a trouble. They would have put this video out, regardless of if they were good or not. So I think these are two completely separate lines of discourse that we're having, and we're lumping it into one because Real Madrid are bad and they're doing this. So everything just looks bad. When things are going well, things are just everything goes well, it seems. When things are going bad, when it rains it pours, everything is being magnified. And
Yeah.
when you start losing all these decisions from Real Madrid and their PR department and their decisions of the boards, lack of signings, and then Ancelotti's mistakes with his own decision making as a coach, they get magnified to an insane degree because now we're not winning. You know, I wrote about it today. I wrote a big article. If anyone's interested, it's pinned on the Managing Madrid website. Um, there are a lot of problems with this team and this club and this coach, and it's no one's fault individually, but it's a bad collection right now of things that are happening. And even something as small as like Vinny being not at his best this season. We've had like countless of transition attacks this season that have just been gone to waste and points left on the table because of bad decision making in the final third. Even if you have like better decision making in the final third on those sequences, you probably have a bunch more points to show for. And a lot of these decisions from Ancelotti and the board don't get magnified as well as much. So the reality is, Diego, we have like a good nucleus to build around and to move forward. But it's on Real Madrid now to not tolerate this mediocrity. Because if they just run it back as is next season, it's going to be another disaster. They got to make these changes. They got to act now.
So I said in my intro briefly that I was happy to see that this Real Madrid came up. Excuse me, came out to play football. And I truly did mean that. Obviously, first half aside, I thought this was going to be, it should have been a more lopsided affair at the start of the second half. It wasn't. It was just a one goal, beautiful goal, of course, from Pedri that put Barca up 1-0. And then watching the switch in the second half, the change in momentum. A lot of people talk about how the entire second half was dominated by Real Madrid. I didn't think so. I thought it was, say between 20 and 30 minutes, definitely of uh, um, the majority of the second half where Real Madrid could have put the game to bed. And by that, I mean the 2-1, both goals from set pieces could have been a 3-1, which, in my opinion, would have probably. Well, I can never really say with Flick's Barca. Obviously, they're able to come back in the most extreme of circumstances. But I felt that, look, to use something that I like to say, I felt that at some point Real Madrid were closer to the 3-1 than Barca were to the equalizer. That came obviously in a moment where, well, the game was almost done and it pushed it to extra time. That being said, I felt as well, had Barca gone into the second half with more than one goal advantage, I don't know if we would have seen a comeback necessarily from Real Madrid. It doesn't really matter. It happened the way it was meant to happen and the way it was, it was scripted, let's say, on the night. But what did you feel watching, for you that were very pessimistic heading into this match? How did you feel in that second half when you saw the momentum shift, fortunes change around, and Madrid taking the lead despite all odds, I guess I should say, given what we saw in the first 45 minutes? Did you see yourself lifting the trophy?
I mean, I think the reaction to come out in the second half was good and quite frankly shocking to me because I didn't expect them. I just expected them to lie down and die and concede more. The reaction was very good. Obviously, the introduction of Mbappe changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think Goulart was awesome off the bench and gave us a really good spark. And I think when Tchouaméni scored, I was like, okay, this was a very good second half performance, and we might win this. But the reality is, like, with hindsight now, knowing what happened after that, it was not even a full good half of football. It was like 30 minutes.
Right.
And that 30 minutes, 30 minutes of good football does not erase how shit this team has been for the whole year. So, like, when Tchouaméni scored, it was like, okay, finally, like, we're doing something here, doing something right. And then it's like, and then by the end of it, you're like, what, like, it's actually more frustrating. It's more frustrating because it's kind of like, well, why can't you guys play like these 30 minutes more? Like, why does it just these 30 minutes that we got all season? Like, why couldn't Goulart be trusted, earlier in the season? So all those things ran into my head. I will say, like, I think it's nice to see Mbappe being so good, even despite these losses, because there was like real concern, like in the fall, that this player just looks so broken mentally. Like, what's going on with him? But he's looking much better now. I think the positives are basically like, and I don't like taking positives because I think it's been such a bad season. Again, the 30 minutes doesn't erase it for me, Diego. But Mbappe, Goulart, Tchouaméni was terrific and has been terrific all calendar year. Like in 2025, he's been very good. Bellingham was phenomenal, apart from the unfortunate lasting image, which is putting his hand on his head with the Pedri goal and not tracking. But yeah, that's all I really got. It's not like I'm coming up with like a list of positives and stuff. So you enjoying that?
I thought I'd enjoy it more, to be honest. I don't know. I think
because you love me
enough
too much.
days.
You don't like seeing me sad. That's the problem.
I guess that is also true, my brother. I do got nothing but love, of course. But I guess it's sort of like the funny thing is, with as good as it felt to win, almost instantly, like by the time I was doing the spaces, it was like, okay, Inter Milan. Let's, I was like, shit,
the bed
man,
over there in Italy, by the way.
Well, yes, they're not on a good spot. Well, we can get into that, but I mean, it was kind of like I was more upset at the fact that my boys had to play in an extra 30 minutes. I'm like, damn, why couldn't we just fucking, lock this shit out
Yeah.
in the first half? Why did we need the extra 30 minutes? Now we got Inter on Wednesday. We're gonna be tired of shit. And it was like already it's like life just moving on to the next worries. What's next? It was great, obviously. Great to have the Copa in the bag and obviously beating Real Madrid for a third time consecutively. But then this is the worry, the mountain that is the Champions League semifinals overtook that feeling of joy real quick. And it's kind of like, okay, what's going on with Inter? And then I found out that Inter weren't playing on Saturday because of the Pope's funeral. They were actually going to play on Sunday. So I was like, yes.
Someone clip that, please. Diego celebrating the Pope dying.
No. Please. Respect. Papa Francisco, rest in peace. But no, yeah, I don't know, man. Listen, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Make no mistake. This cup win was something that culés, I think we should all enjoy, savor, because of who we beat, because of how it happened. It happened with a remontada. Once again, I love that Hansi Flick has instilled some of that German mentality in this Barca, and it's never until the end. I said it even in the podcast leading up to this, didn't I, Kiyan? I was like, I expect Real Madrid to hit first, and probably Barca to mount a comeback. It didn't happen that way, but a remontada was needed in the end. Ferran Torres coming up with the goods through. Yeah, I mean, clearly, obviously, what can only be described as miscommunication there. Courtois probably taking the majority of the blame for leaving his goal and leaving it so exposed. But still, Ferran Torres, who did a great job in finishing that one. And then Kounde, who really quickly, man, when that game already started, just the way that he took Vinny out, bossed him, and the confidence he has as a defender right now was very comforting, let's say. I thought he played an excellent game. Kept telling my son, I was like, I'm trying to get both my kids to pay more attention to the defenders, just to give them their praise. And it was like that whole game was just an excellent game by Jules Kounde, who then capped it off with an insane goal that probably, he's probably not going to score that again in quite some time. I don't want to put time frame on it, but it's not a goal that he would regularly score. However, I do think that credit has to be given not just to Kounde, but clearly, I think often people forget when defenders score a goal like that. It's like, that's kind of part of the game plan as well. That's the reason why Barca plays so high up the pitch. That's the reason why the fullbacks are part of the offense, right? Is to create that numerical advantage. And if you're in a position to fire off a shot, which, obviously these players can do very well, then you might as well try your luck, even if it's against, one of the best goalkeepers in the world in Courtois. You can beat him even if it's late in extra time and win the cake, and that was the case. So it's like, yeah, I guess we shouldn't see it as just such an amazing, like a rare occurrence, something that was so unpredictable. It's like, no, wait, this forms part of the game plan that Flick is, has implemented and instilled in his team.
It was a heads up play and a great finish. And I don't know, I'm sure the Barcelona media was different, but in the Madrid media, all the talk about that goal was it Modric's fault or Brahim's fault? Like,
right?
It was
Yeah,
a bad pass. Brahim should have come to the ball, but no one talked about how much of a heads up play it was for Kounde to sprint and intercept that and see that coming, because there's like screenshots that have circulated of like, it shows like how far back Kounde was of Brahim in that situation. And you would never think, looking at that screenshot, that Kounde was going to catch up and intercept that. And then not only that, but of course, shoot that bottom corner. Perfect goal. So, and I'm kind of always been of the idea that, like, because I've seen people say, well, if Courtois doesn't come out, or if, that pass to Brahim isn't made, like, we would have won. I'm like, no, that's not how football works. Something else would have happened probably. Because if it's inevitable, it's inevitable. This is like basically complaining, like, if Donnarumma hadn't slipped when Benzema stole the ball from him, then PSG would have never lost. Like, no, I think that was inevitable that night, that PSG were going to choke and Real Madrid were going to come back. So, yeah, like I said, it's a deserved W. I mean, it was the closest Clasico, but the fact that, even saying that is such a loser thing to say. Like, this is just It's just such a horrible season, man. Diego, this is honestly the worst season as a Real Madrid fan since
1819.
no, way before. This is worse than 1819, bro. This is way worse. 1819, it was like, okay, Cristiano's gone, transition year. It's like this Vinicius teenager who just came over from Brazil. Solari came in, coach got sacked. Like, okay, like you're bad. But this was like this expectations of this team were so high when they signed Mbappe after the Champions League win. So everything is relative. This is worse because the expectations were way higher than that season. I'm gonna go way farther back than that. Probably like I don't know, maybe like you tell me. What was I mean, the Lyon loss after we signed Cristiano and Benzema and Kaká and Xabi Alonso in one summer, maybe the Lyon elimination.
That was a great one. That was Juninho time, wasn't it?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like there were more heartbreaking ones, like 2012 penalty shootout, 2015 Morata scores and knocks us out of the semifinal. But that was
Ajax is 2018-19.
Yeah, Ajax 2018-19. Yeah. Like I said, that one sucked, but this one felt worse.
And that is this, all this despite the fact that you guys could still win La Liga.
I'm not buying any stock.
Listen,
this is the same thing people said like just before we got eliminated against Arsenal. Wow, despite all of this, we're still in trouble. And then Arsenal eliminated us. Oh, despite all of this, we're still in a double. And then Barca eliminated us. Oh, despite all of this, we're in La Liga. And then it's just you're gonna end us. I'm
gonna make another motivational video where people will confuse me as the Madridista. Like I saw some comments where you were like, "Dude, he's the culé."
Yeah,
Arsenal fans are like delusional Madridista.
Oh, that was on Instagram, I think. Someone actually thought you were a Madridista and they were making fun of you.
That's bad. I don't want to make that mistake again. But listen, it's funny though because I say that, but obviously, that's the narrative over here at the moment. AS came out with a portada, a front page the other day that it said, "Without the cup, but with La Liga." And they had a whole article outlining as to why Madrid can still win the league. And, you got to do that. It is factually, mathematically true that is still a possibility. There is still a Clasico to play in, what is it? Let's call it 2 weeks, the 11th of May. Where anything can happen. So it's not total doom and gloom. And listen, I mean, 4 Clásicos in a row, like surely not. I mean,
well, look, I'll give you the path to winning the league is one about pride, and that now if we know Carlo was leaving, they do it for him. And Carlo's like, "Hey guys, I'm going to Brazil end of the season. I'm not even sticking around for Club World Cup.
right.
Let's just give it all we got."
Yeah.
Do
it for Carlo.
Do our part. We can't control Barca obviously winning all their games or not, except for that Clasico. But we got to do our part. And what changes? I mean, look, I think the big dent is the Rudiger injury / suspension because Tchouaméni was playing so good in DM, and now he's going to have to be playing center back. And Camavinga's injured; he can't help in that midfield either.
So Camavinga's out. That's huge. What about Bellingham and Vázquez? Vinny didn't pick up. So it was 3, right? Rudiger, Bellingham, and because that spills over to the league.
As far as I know, because of the rules, Bellingham's red card does not carry over to the league. But I think it carries over to next year's Copa del Rey.
Okay. So why Rudiger's suspension does carry over to the league?
Well, I think Rudiger's is because he was like throwing shit at the referee. Like this was like a football,
like
ban.
A physical.
I mean,
aggression. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's way different than Bellingham.
Verbal abuse.
Bellingham just yelling at the referee at the end, like getting upset at him. Rudiger literally will look completely unhinged. Like it was actually scary. I don't know what the hell was going on with him. But correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not 100% sure. I got that right. It's possible, but I'm pretty sure Bellingham's red card does not carry over until.
Okay, I don't know. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I can just look it up while when we talk. But yeah, I don't know who will. Um. So yeah. Oh yeah. I wanted to ask you a question.
Go.
So, and this is more big picture Barca stuff because you were saying before this game you were kind of worried about Barca's form in the last month or so and how they've had to grind it out against some of these teams and they haven't been playing at their best and all this and this is another game where even though you deserved the win, there were stages where you looked more mortal, maybe tired.
Yeah.
This game obviously went into extra time.
Mm.
Um, in those, like, I guess 30 minutes in the second half, what did you see that would concern you? And maybe Barca's mentality is so good this season that even if they have those rough patches, they can come back and win at the end regardless.
Hmm.
And overall, like, it's hard to have perfect games all the time. You guys played a great first half and a
Yeah,
poor
I think
30 minutes. And then after that, like, it was kind of back and forth between both teams
yeah,
with exposed defense. So, like,
yeah.
you know, yeah.
What concerned me the most was seeing that drop off happen and then seeing players kind of look. And I know I've used this term. I sound like a broken record, but there's clear fatigue that has set into this team, right? And you just kind of feel like if they don't capitalize on chances when the legs are fresh, how will they be able to sustain the pressure of having to come back against other teams now in the latter stage of the Champions League or even in La Liga and drop silly points against teams that are fighting relegation, that are fighting to get into Europe, that are just fighting for pride. I think we still have to face Espanyol, which they're already in obviously hoping for a tamudazo scenario. For those that remember that, where an Espanyol upset Barca and snatched away the title and allow Madrid to win that. So those are scenarios that obviously I don't want to see. I would love to see Barca be more clinical. It's easier said than done, especially from the comfort of the couch, obviously, or behind this microphone here. Especially given the amount of energy that this team has had to put into the games to fight for these comebacks, and it's undeniable that in games like what was it, Leganes, Celta, ever since the last international break, Dortmund obviously away, that this team is, you just feel that the minutes and the strain of each game is taking a toll, and you see that in this case in the second half, where a team like Real Madrid can punish you, even if it is from set pieces. It's those are plays where maybe you wish a player was a little bit more focused, concentrated. I mean, even the goals that Real Madrid conceded, you could argue, besides, the fact it was a brilliant goal, like the 1-0 from Pedri, the pass, right, over to Lamine waiting, pulling the defenders out, and then Pedri obviously running up to the 18-yard box and finishing that. It's lapses of concentration that Real Madrid had that allowed Barca also to get their goals. So it's kind of like a matter of, okay, how many can we score before the opposing team will get their chances and probably put some in the back of the net as well? Will we have created ample margin, or do we still have the fuel and the fire legs in the legs left to mount a comeback? Which at this point in time, it's like there have been a few. There have been a few against big teams, Madrid, Atleticos, etc. But there have been, quite a few, and now when the margins are so tight, and what is the saying, Kiyan? The attention or is in the detail, or the
Yeah, you
it's
can say that. Yeah.
yeah, it's like yeah. I guess that would be my main concern. Really, is the fitness level, the mental and physical fitness levels of this team at this stage of the season. Mm.
Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned, like if Real Madrid don't make these defensive mistakes or these lapses and whatnot, I mean, the reality is like almost every team makes mistakes every game, and I don't think there's been any team better to capitalize on opponent mistakes than Barca. And so that's why I kept saying like the margin of error is so thin with these guys. You've scored 89 goals in Europe, um, in the league. Only Bayern have scored more, and it's only one more 90. Defense has been great. Only 32 goals conceded. This really it the goal differential is pretty astronomical, and second in Europe to Bayern as well. Obviously, yeah. I I also think that the combination of like just how good you guys are offensively, and also just the combination of the mental battle that you guys have tackled this season, because that's half of it. Honestly, I know it sounds kind of lame and cliche and whatnot, but I mean that's ultimately what gave Real Madrid the edge for so many years, was that they just wouldn't crumble despite like going down 1 or 2 goals, and you guys have that. Like, you have that DNA this season.
Mm.
So let me ask you this: if somebody had told you before the season started that this current Barca squad would have a chance to put themselves in the echelons of MSN and Pep's Barca, what would you have said?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have believed it. This is exceeding my wildest expectations. I never thought that we would be in the running to win a treble within the first year of Hansi Flick's reign at Barca.
Yeah.
It's no chance. I mean, again, to we talked about it in the last pod where I said I would deem a season successful if we would be in the running, if we would be competing in the latter stages of these competitions, let alone win them, right? So, and that's the truth, quite frankly. It's been a remarkable season, but even at club level, Kiyan, I started out kind of clumsily due to ill preparation on my part, but the intro talking about the success of the U19 squad, treble winners, the first time in history that they've won the league, the cup, and now yesterday the Champions League, or the Youth League, I should say, for a third time. The only club that has won the Youth League 3 times so far. La Masia continues to work very well, producing fine footballing talents. The women's team are at the cusp of winning the Copa del Rey. They're in the final against Atletico. That will be played at the end, I think, of May, nearing the end. In the final of the Champions League for a fifth consecutive time, excuse me. And will, not yet mathematical winners of the domestic league, but that will undoubtedly happen. So they're setting themselves up for another treble winning season, and the men's team as well for potentially a third time in its history, right? That it will win the Copa that is in the bag. The league is still not mathematically there, but we have 4 points of a cushion between us and Real Madrid, with the Clasico still to go, and 1 foot in the 2 feet in the semifinal, where we're now tomorrow facing an Inter side that is giving us a little bit more hope. They were leading up to it the team I wanted to face the least, based on what I had seen in the Champions League, primarily based on what I had read, what I had heard from you, from Nima as well. By the way, a quick plug for D-Spot for all of you interested or already joining from D-Spot. I'm going to have an interview with Nima, a renowned, esteemed journalist of the Italian football, to talk more about this very intriguing semi-final against the Italian side that, yes, is going through a slump on a 3 consecutive game defeat at the moment. Pavard is out. Thuram will be back, but they're not going through their bestest of spells, but I still don't trust them. So that one will be hard fought, but certainly if you're Barca at this point, you've got to fancy your chances, against Inter Milan, against anybody. So we'll see how it ends, man. We'll see how it ends. But this is from where we have come, Kiyan, with all of these years, not just traumatic years on the pitch and the post-Messi era to deal with, which, in and of itself, well, we've been judges of that here on Churros y Tácticas with some success, such as the Copa del Rey with Koeman, then the league with Xavi, the Super Cup. But certainly at this point now with Flick, it's just all turning out to be just potentially quite glorious. And I don't want to get too ahead of myself, given where we come from and given all the suffering that we've had to endure and the ridicule as well. I'm talking both obviously on and off the pitch, but this is it just, yeah, man, lap it up, culés. It's hopefully our time, and we can quote Piqué to say that we are well and truly back.
I need to block PK on Twitter for sure. Nothing triggers me as much as that man saying anything. It's funny because last year, and really like the last 4 or 5 years, I wasn't aware that there are other fan bases in the world. Like I didn't hear from them. It was kind of like life in the universe. They're there somewhere, but you haven't seen them. You assume they're there because how could it not be that they don't exist? Look how big the universe is. Now I know that there are I know that there's an Arsenal fan base. I know that there's a Barca fan base, and they are lapping it up. And as you should. That's the way that football banter works. Lamine Yamal had a great quote today. I'm sure you saw it. I really mean a great quote. I'm not a Koulé, for those of you guys watching on social media. He said that, I don't know, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, yeah, I can talk now and until they beat me. I don't know. You have the quote there? It was actually a good quote. I liked it.
The question was basically, how do you feel about people taking issue with you saying that Madrid just cannot beat you guys? And
I have it.
Sure.
Quote, as long as I keep winning games, no one can tell me anything. When I lose and they beat me, then they can do it. So it's Barca's time in the sunlight right now. We got to admit, there's no beating around the bush. This is the reality. I would like to say this, if I'm Real Madrid, I think that they should actually look at Barcelona as a case study this season for a couple of reasons. One is that a new coach with a largely the same squad can do wonders. And they have to consider that, because I think this is still a pretty damn good squad. Certainly, there's like almost no squad you would trade it with, especially if you can sign wing backs and bring in a central defender like Dean Huijsen, which I don't know, they seem to be being very cheap on right now. And the other thing is, like, it's okay to trust youth players. It's okay. The world is not going to end, and in fact, it's a very low risk, high reward scenario. So what did you have to lose? Trust, one of the most promising right backs in Spanish football right now is Jesus Fortea, a kid in Juvenil A. And would he have been worse than Lucas Vazquez after all these months? Nope, he wouldn't have been. How many points did Real Madrid drop this season because the opposing team would just run at Lucas Vazquez? I'm really surprised Rafinha actually didn't destroy him. Vazquez really had problems offensively and on the ball when he was pressed. But yeah, it's just, there's a lot of things that I think the problem is, Diego, in the last few years, it seemed like Real Madrid could do no wrong. And so now finally it just caught up to them. The lack of reinforcements was exposed. The lack of tactical ideas was exposed because you didn't have the individual brilliance to mask these holes. And now it's time to reflect and make changes. Don't run it back. I'm begging you guys. There's a path to greatness here. There is. Don't run it back, for the love of God. Don't run it back.
Well, dude, I mean, if history is any form of indication, we know that obviously, like any great club, I mean, for those that doubted that Barca was going to come back, we on Churros a few seasons ago, but we did talk about as reference cases. We looked at AC Milan, we looked at Manchester United, and we wondered, with the direction that Barca were heading in under Bartomeu, and in the beginning, obviously, of the Laporta era, where a lot had to be done, whether that was going to happen, and Barca returned. I mean, I don't think that we can doubt that Real Madrid, will not obviously become, I want to say, like, successful again. I mean, it feels kind of ridiculous to say that from a team that is still the current champions of the league and the Champions League, and have just signed or just signed Mbappe this season, and will undoubtedly get a great coach to lead this very talented squad of players. We'll see Guller obviously get more playing time. So I don't think there's any doubt about that. I'm very happy that this season is turning out the way it is, because like I said last time, I think Madridistas needed humbling, and humble pie tastes even better when it's served up with little Blaugrana flags on it. So
no great player, no great team has not been humbled. It's a prerequisite for greatness. I don't think Diego, there's ever been, ever is probably a strong word, but certainly in the last 20 25 years, I don't know if there's been, after seasons that are just completely disastrous, those are the times that Real Madrid do go into the market. Obviously 2009 is one. Even when that 2018-2019 Ajax season, I lost track of how many people we signed. It was everyone from Jovic to Mendy to Hazard.
I guess you have to ask yourself whether that's the answer. It's just
No, I
throwing
don't think
money
it's
at a
the
wall.
answer. To be clear, I don't think it's the answer. I think it's more minor solutions, like just buy reinforcements in the back line and bring a new coach in. Yeah.
And then you got Arnold coming. Alexander Arnold.
Yeah, TAA. Yeah. I mean, it's not official yet, but it seems to be inevitable. This team has an incredible nucleus of Vinny and Mbappe and Jude and Fede. I mean, just those four players alone, to have the luxury of building around that is incredible. And so now you have to find the right pieces and the right coach to make it work. Get these roles defined, get them playing way better. And I also think Diego, there's a lot of excuses from Madridistas that but Ancelotti didn't have wing backs and all this stuff. I'm like, please go down the list. 99% of the teams that Real Madrid play against have vastly inferior teams on paper.
Right.
And they're just blowing us out of the water. It makes no sense to be playing like this. It makes no sense. Switch Flick and Carlo this season.
I hear you.
I want to see it. I mean, I don't. You know what I mean? I don't want to see it, but I'm sure it would have made a huge difference. So yeah. There's
all right, my friend.
2 super chats, bro.
All right.
I think they're pretty quick. Claude says 4 match suspensions or higher carryover. So this must be in reference to when we were talking about Rudiger suspension and stuff.
Thank you, Claude.
Yeah. And Nishlish Patel says, will there be a free churros after the Champions League semi-second leg? I don't think so.
Well, next week, Tuesday.
Oh, the second leg. Oh, not this week. What do you guys play next week?
Yeah.
We could potentially save the free one for Tuesday. There probably won't be that much to talk about on Monday anyway.
But he's saying after, right? So it'll be Wednesday. We could do the free one on Wednesday,
unless we do a watch along or something on Tuesday. Or
so that's something that we had planned as well. Yeah, the watch along. We could organize that and see if we can make that happen.
Yeah. Well, we can't promise. Where for sure you'll see us is over on patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. That we can guarantee. We got another one coming this week. We got another one coming next week. That one is guaranteed. Patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. Diego and I are recording there once a week. So make sure you catch us over there and follow us at Churros Tácticas without the Y on all socials.
Please do. Give us a good old follow and stick around for the ride. It's going to be a fun end of the season. I expect more plot twists. I expect more heated moments. So you don't want to miss them out. Again, apologies that this one is coming out on a Tuesday. Wasn't our intention. It was our full intention to record yesterday, but there was a big power outage nationwide that kept the entire Iberian Peninsula off the grid. Just boom. Nobody could do nothing. People stuck in a metro. People stuck in elevators. Couldn't work. Couldn't get nothing done. So it was pretty crazy. But yeah, give us a follow because we do stream twice a week, once free and the other one on Thursdays on patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. Kiyan, my friend, I'm gonna get ready for the next one, the next pod. We are gonna start at 8 o'clock. So again, for those of you on Kiyan's channel that are interested in seeing my conversation with Nima to talk Inter Barca, or Barca Inter, I should say, that one kicking off tomorrow. We're gonna go live at 8 o'clock. So jump on over to my channel, D Spot. Just Google YouTube D Spot, or just I don't know. Go to my Twitter page. It's youtube.com/dspot, D for Diego. And we have a lot to talk about that. Very curious to know more, learn more about this, the threats of Inter Milan, because that's the thing, Kiyan. I don't believe that an Inter all of a sudden can go from the big bad beasts, the fearful, the ones that the worst, they were our kryptonite. They can all of a sudden drop off that hard, and it's just going to be a cakewalk for Barca. Surely those players, okay, they lost against Milan in the cup final. They lost against Roma, and I don't know who else. But a semi-final of the Champions League against Barca will certainly get the best or motivate these players plenty. So I don't trust them one bit.
All right. Enjoy the Champions League games this week, folks. Big one today, Arsenal PSG. And then tomorrow, obviously, Barca Inter. These are not controversial, I think, to say these are the four best teams right now. So, it's not always we get the four best teams in the semifinals, well coached, well drilled. And so, we'll see what happens. We'll see you guys over on patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas later this week to recap the Champions League games. Thanks for tuning in. And thank you, Diego.
Thanks, buddy. Take it easy.